Chris, number one, mentioned, it's taken me over 7 hours to travel from Chippenham in Wiltshire to be with you tonight. I don't know if you're aware. To sit in a car for 7 hours and not be able to walk afterwards, and then to have to present, it's quite tough. But yes, so M5 was shut. So that was the problem. So you can see about the infrastructure, can't you? If there's one problem, the whole country, or half the country, seems to get gridlocked. Okay, so I'm the campaign manager, public speaker, head of training for an organisation called Leave.EU. Who's heard of Leave.EU before? So there are some people that have never heard of Leave.EU. It was a campaign group set up on the internet in the middle of last year by two millionaires, Aaron Banks and Richard Tice. They believed that Great Britain would be better served staying in Europe, but leaving the diktat of the European Union. So they set up this website, which originally was called the No.EU, and then the Electoral Commission changed the question. So we were able to get the domain name of Leave.EU. We've got a call centre in Bristol. So you register on the website, you put in Google Leave.EU, sign up with your email address, and then somebody from Bristol will ring you back, ask you if you wouldn't mind donating, because we are trying to expand the campaign, and we don't get any money from the European Union. And also ask people if they'd like to be activists. So I'm hoping that after all the talks you've listened to tonight, you'll all want to become activists in some way. So, why are we here today? Well, I'm hoping that you're going to learn information that you weren't aware of before about the European Union and why we should leave. Hopefully it's going to re-energise the batteries of people who have been campaigning for years and years to leave. Because it gets you get a bit jaded, don't you? You've been pounding the streets for years, telling people why you think they should leave. What's so bad about the European Union? So let me go around the room and ask a few people. Chris, what was the main reason why you wanted to leave the European Union?
Well, I've been in UKIP for 8 years. I used to be a very active Tory, and my Tory friends thought it was very amusing going into UKIP. You never get anywhere, waste of time, I wouldn't bother if I were you. Well, of course, that's all changed. It's changed now to the point where they're thanking me because we've now got a referendum. Without the UKIP, you wouldn't have had it. And I joined because I was so utterly dismayed about what was going on even 8 years ago. And I read the UKIP manifesto and I thought, that's everything I believe in. I believe in standing up for ourselves. I believe in being responsible for our own laws, responsible for our own borders, etc., etc. So that's why I joined.
Thank you, Chris. Gentleman there. Have you got an idea on why you think you'd like to leave the European Union?
Yeah, I don't like all the corruption.
Corruption, okay. Gentleman there.
Yeah, I could talk about the...
In 10 seconds, please.
democratic deficit, corruption, not like being told what to do by other people, and a vision of a free, independent, sovereign country that we used to be. But increasingly, I'm looking forward to seeing the smug look on David Cameron's face being wiped off when we vote to leave.
So just in 3 people's opinions and perspectives, we've got 3 different reasons at least. So that sort of highlights that there is not one single reason why the British people will want to leave. You'll hear the word sovereignty bandied around quite a lot. If I went round the room again, sovereignty means different things to different people. We hear about controlling our laws again. You've got statistics ranging from 64.7% to 75% of our laws and regulations emanating now from outside these shores. And we've already heard how important it is for us as British people, whether we're talking about fracking or anything else, that we make those decisions, not unelected bureaucrats. So with sovereignty, laws, as we've heard tonight, Tony Benn once actually said, if you cannot get rid of the people who govern you, you have not got democracy. Let's get real about this. We do not have a democratic government in this country because of all the rules that come from Brussels. We want to see our MPs do their proper job again, don't we? That's what we pay them for.
Absolutely.
Right, so sovereignty, making our own rules. Stephen already mentioned TTIP, the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, which could be another 2 to 3 years down the line before that is ratified. I hear people in the streets and they say, well, we don't like TTIP, we think it's totally wrong because it's giving the power to the global corporations. But if it's not ratified before the referendum, we'll vote to stay in, knowing that TTIP will happen. You know, there's no doubt about it. But what people also fail to understand sometimes, or it's not been made aware of, is the fact that there's something ahead of TTIP. It's something called the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement. And this is similar insofar as it's between Canada this time and the European Union. Now, if you look at websites like Global Justice, you'll find lots of information about CETA. And this allows, effectively, Canadian subsidiaries of American companies the right to get involved in the privatisation of our NHS. So whether TTIP comes in or not, we've got CETA. Do we want to pay to use the NHS? Is this going to be a fait accompli in the future? It certainly will be if we have global corporations, because they're not going to invest in the NHS without profits for them, for their shareholders. And the NHS is one of the jewels in the crown that British people have. There is nothing like that in any place in the rest of the world. So we must protect our NHS. Also, you see, with the CETA, we're looking at the food regulations. Has anybody ever been to America? Okay, you may or may not know that the food regulations in America are quite different to the food regulations over here. They allow, for example, chicken to have cyanide in it. 60% of American chicken has cyanide. You've got GM food over in America, which is currently banned in the European Union. They allow food additives, they allow growth hormones into their food. So if you're going to allow the CETA to take hold, the American food regulations, which are less stringent, will be allowed in the European Union. So, can you imagine feeding your children food with hormones in? And you will need the NHS after that. So, think about it. European arrest warrant, we've mentioned a couple of times tonight. In 2012-2013, 1,438 people, British people, were actually arrested on these shores upon the presentation of a piece of paper called a warrant. That warrant is presented to our courts. Do you know what they do with that warrant? They don't ask for any evidence. They basically say, has this, or they're looking at this piece of paper and thinking, has this piece of paper been completed correctly? That's all they're looking to see. No evidence needs to be offered. And we've seen a case in 2012 of a retired southeast judge. He was arrested at 5 o'clock in the morning, taken from his bed and transported back to Italy. He said at the time, he said, I don't know why I was arrested. I don't know what the case was that I had to answer. So I couldn't produce any evidence. And he actually suffered a stroke because of that. Of course, we had the Asher King case as well. A little boy who had the tumour on the brain. And that was a case where the European arrest warrant was actually issued by the British police. Is that fair? A system where you are presumed guilty and then you have to prove your innocence, as opposed to our traditional system of being innocent until proven guilty. So at Leave.EU, I've been taking our stall to all these party political conferences. You know, we pay good money to represent leaving the European Union. You might be interested to know that the Conservatives banned us. They wouldn't allow us to have a stall at their conference last September, October, up in Manchester. The SNP let us have a stall. Labour allowed us to have a stall, and so did UKIP. The trade union conference, again, did not allow us to have a stall. But I went to both the Conservative and the TUC conferences outside, because they're not going to stop us, because we've got freedom of speech. So I went out handing out leaflets with a promo van saying why we should leave the European Union. There are a lot of unionists, a lot of trade union members that realise that the European Union is no longer good for its members. So, looking at all the different reasons, you've got trade union rights. A lot of people in trade unions thought that by us joining the European Union, there would be solidarity in numbers, strength in Europe, greater pulling power, if you like, with the employers. But in actual fact, over the past couple of years, employees have gone to court against the employers about rights. Guess which side wins every time? Yeah, the employers. Has anybody ever been involved in 2P? Does anybody know about 2P? Were you in the public sector and it was going to be privatised?
Yeah, I was in the charity sector sort of thing. I was working for APA.
So with 2P, quite often people are working in the public sector, and then that part of the sector is being privatised. People have their pension benefits and their working conditions guaranteed for a certain length of time, and then quite often, you know what's going to happen, things will get watered down. This has been driven by the European Union. There's a lot more people being affected by that as the years go by. People are going to be worse off. Okay, the working conditions will not stay the same. And who makes the, you know, who profits from all of this? Right, so these are all sort of bits of information that when you're out talking to your friends, you can say, well, you know, that lady talked about this. This is what's happening. Is this what you believe in? Why, you know, why should we be staying in or why should we be coming out? I believe we should be coming out. It's no-brainer. I used to go into schools, and this is why Stephen and I are sort of quite connected, really, because I met Stephen when he became the financial spokesperson for UKIP. Because prior to me doing this job, I was actually going out into schools, doing charity work, talking to children about saving and not going into debt. And you know, it was such a powerful message to take into schools. You really felt you were doing some real good. You know, you were like their parents. You were saying, well, should you be borrowing money? Should you not save your money? And then once you've got your money, you can then go and buy what you want. And it makes you appreciate that item so much more. And you talk to children about what's important in life. You know, needs and wants. And the difference. And they really, really sort of grasp this. So then when I went to a public meeting and heard that our government was spending all this money, it's their money. It's like the government raiding all their piggy banks, isn't it? Is that fair? Isn't it disingenuous of us to say we should stay in and let all our children have their, you know, savings raided? So, let's assume we're all activists tonight. We're all going to become active after tonight. So we've now got unity of purpose in this room. We know this matter is really urgent. We should be planning, Chris is going to be out organising meetings. We need to be planning today, for tomorrow, doing street stalls. We need to be planning for next week. We need to have some plan of action. Because a referendum could be in June, it could be in September. But of course, the worst case scenario for us is going to be June, before the good weather. So, we've got unity of purpose. We know the matter's urgent. And what about unity of action? So what are we going to do? Well, I brought some leaflets tonight, and you've all got leaflets on your chairs. These leaflets need to be distributed. People need to go out leafleting, knocking on doors, canvassing. Street stalls. Who's ever been involved in a street stall before? Just a few. Street stall, I'm passionate about street stalls. If you can get a group of like-minded people together, we're not talking about political parties, we're talking about people who are determined to save this country. If you can get together, smiley, approachable people, knowing that you're going to put your party rosettes to one side. You're going to be distributing leaflets which have no party logo on there. Because you're unified, you're united in having that common purpose to save this country. And no one's going to stop you. So you've got your rosettes to one side, any colours that you might wear normally with party colours. I mean, I often go out in red and blue. Why do I go out in red and blue?
Impartiality.
Sorry?
Impartiality.
Well, I go out because I'm very proud we've talked about the Union flag tonight. I'm passionate about Britain.
You need a white hat as well, then.
White hat, well, yeah. But yeah, I do wear a lot of red and blue. It does confuse people, actually, because they know if you wear red and blue together, it doesn't symbolise one political party. Okay, so what we're doing at Leave.EU, well, I'm now being appointed as head of training. I used to be a teacher, hence me going into schools and talking to children. I'm now head of training for Leave.EU, meeting activists, making sure that everybody's upskilled, everybody's working from the same hymn sheet, if you like, and having a totally professional force to go out onto the streets, because that's what we need. Yeah? I mean, I go out sometimes with groups of people, and they all look miserable. I know it's been really cold weather, but they all wear long black coats, they all huddle together, and you think, if I was in the street walking by and I wasn't into politics, would I want to be approached by one of those people? So it's looking at things in a different perspective. Because we need to get 28 million votes to say leave. 28 million people. Yeah? And I know some of you UKIP, and you've got 4 million votes, or just under. 7 times that number. Sort of puts it in perspective. So when you're doing these street stalls, you need to get somebody out with a camera, taking pictures. Why would you need to do that?
Social media.
Exactly. Social media is so important. Did this the other week. They said, oh, we don't have anybody to take pictures, so we wrote somebody in from the family. I mean, with iPads these days and camera phones and what have you, it's pretty straightforward these days. So somebody came and took pictures. Do you know, the people in the street, they were thinking, what's going on? It attracted lots of attention. There must be something important happening because somebody's bending this way and bending that way and taking pictures. It's important having somebody filming these meetings. If you're organising public meetings, so important. It takes people, activists, however many days or weeks to go out and leaflet for a public meeting, and if you don't have a record of it, it's like it's never happened. You can then upload it onto websites and show people what the European Union is really all about. Okay, because there's lots of people that won't come to a public meeting. So you have to take that public meeting into somebody's front room. So, we've got a situation now where we've got unity of purpose, we know the matter is urgent, and we've got unity of action under people's leadership. You're all going to get upskilled in keeping yourself up to date with knowledge and share that knowledge. Somebody said to me the other day, yes, but somebody said to me, well, I live in France and I've lived there for X years and I'll have to come home if we pull out of the European Union. That is the situation sometimes with people in the streets. These are the items, these are the topics you're going to encounter. A lot of people are not going to be talking to you about trade, in which case you can whip out a trade document. We've got some booklets, really good booklets, haven't we, Chris? Produced by William Dartmouth, that talks about trade. But that often does not concern a lot of the people in the street. They think they're not going to be able to go on holiday. And some people say, well, in France, we can use the NHS, etc. And we won't be able to do that. We've always had insurance policies to go abroad with. In actual fact, I did meet a lady canvassing the other week. She'd lived in France for 22 years, her and her husband. And she said, Caroline, nobody talks about this, but they paid taxes into the French system. They retired in France. Her husband then went into hospital, and he died in hospital. When his estate was settled, the French government took £29,000 from the estate to pay for his medical treatment. So there are things that we don't always know about. So with unity of purpose, urgency, unity of action, we just now need you. Thank you.